welcome to the Desolation Sounds Podcast. My name is Stephen Hook, and this is a podcast celebrating everything to do in the world of alternative music, be that rock, punk, metal, or extreme metal. How are we all doing out there? I know it's not a fun place to be alive right now with the coronavirus and various politicians acting like cunts, but I hope everyone's doing alright. And I hope my fucking stumbling over words is going to help with any isolation that one might have to go through. So let's chat some music and see how much I don't know. Coming up this week, we will be talking about ATENA or ATENA. I've only ever seen it written down. I have no idea how to pronounce it. ATENA, VUKOVI, Salt Ashes, Giver. But we will start with Caspian. This is their fifth album. It's called On Circles. They come from Beverly in Massachusetts in America, and they are probably one of the premier post-rock bands ever going right now. This is their first album with drummer Justin Forrest, and it's their first album since 2015's Dust and Disquiet, which for Caspian, for fans of Caspian, was kind of their peak at the moment. It's kind of their magnum opus so far. I've seen a lot of people gush over it. I've seen a lot of people say how great it is just as a whole. It was also a big album for them. It was their first album written, and I will get his name. It was their first. Well, it was a response album after the passing of their bassist at the time, Chris Friedrich. And so this is the album after the big one. And as time has shown us, the one after the big one isn't always all that great. And I just noticed aside from the album, I've got obviously a YouTube portion or a video portion of the podcast going as well. I look really grey. I'm sure that's probably nothing maybe obviously to worry about, but anyway, so yeah, big old album for Caspian following. It's almost like bigger than the big album when these sort of things happen. As a whole, I've talked about it a lot. I find it very difficult to get post-rock. It's a style of music which is a lot of bands sort of go too much of the crescendo core kind of thing, as I've seen it described, and I think that describes why I don't like it that much quite well. Yeah, it's just a genre that I want to get into. I feel like I'm missing out on an intake of music which is, it just hits differently to the usual lot of punk and thrash and extreme music I usually go for. But it's been a difficult one. And in terms of having the slow building kind of songs and lots of ideas, lots of spaciness, lots of people trying to show off what they can do, I was kind of getting that vibe very early on in the opener, Wild Blood. Again, it's a very searing, it's a very slow building kind of song, and that's how it introduced the album. To me, it is the archetypal post-rock song. And yeah, initially I was kind of worried, because I was thinking like this incredible band with this incredible pedigree, and I'm just gonna sit here and say it's boring. Few more listeners know, particularly on headphones. Headphones really did make a difference on an album like this. It really started to grab me. Flowers of Light was one particularly early on in the album, it really draws me into like the album as a whole. Beautiful guitar effect, which I think is just like a simple delay effect. I'm really low down on this camera. There we go. Yeah, really simple delay effect that starts off as the song's intro, very quickly become, or very slowly in fact, 'cause it's post-rock still, very slowly becomes the spine of the song, and it's what everyone else works around to create this like adding walls and walls, well, layer upon layer to the wall of sound. The new guy, Justin Forrester, he has some brilliant hi-hat rolls that creates that really organic, shimmery feel in that ethereal world that post-rock bands, post-rock music just craves, and just is always trying to get something that feels so organic in that ilk. yeah, I just thought it became, everything bounced off each other and everything worked off each other so very well on what was just like simple ideas coming together to create a very expansive idea, or expansive whole, I should say. The that wall of sound that I talked about is backed up by big stadium rock style, big drum beat. And from that point on, when it was a case of these are still quite grounded rock musicians making this kind of ethereal music, albums started to click with me way more than it previously was. Or even on when I was doing the review listen, it was pretty much blasting like 20 seconds or so of each song. I put on Division Blues, went to write down some notes, and I just let it finish off, and it just drifted straight into Onzra, and it was so easy. It was just so easy to have that music on. You can work. I find it quite hard in the grand scheme of things. I find it quite difficult to listen to music and then write at the same time. I've usually got to listen to something, stop it, and then write down the notes I have and what I've just heard, as opposed to alongside. Whereas with this, it was so easy. Like I say, it just drifted from one song to another, and it felt right. It felt, again, easy. Onzra, the actual song itself, follows a very similar trait to Flowers of Light. That delay guitar effect to open and carry the song throughout. I love how that effect is used. It's something that, on its own, is something quite simple and easy. Just either get the right guitar or get the right pedal. As far as I'm aware, I'm not a guitarist. But the way they use it, the way they make something as a simple idea and turn it into something way more powerful than its initial usage. It's very, very done. Very, very well done. On this album. And it's not just Flowers of Light and Onzra as well. They just use it as like the spine of the song, as I was saying. But there's a few other times where they just use it sporadically in between songs. And yeah, really, really enjoyed that. Collapser, when I was talking about early on about how it took me a while just to like start listening to the songs and start listening to what it is as a piece of music as opposed to individual songs, Collapser was one of the first songs of the entire album that really caught my attention. It's the proper rocky one. It's really, really like more crunchy and way more closer to what I'd usually listen to. There's just so much guitar melodies in there, so many. There's way more crunch, as I say. The tremolo picking just adds to the overall drama of the song. And squeaky chair. The outro of the song just feels like it does away with all like the beautiful etherealness and refinement that the rest of the album creates. When you get to the like outgoing of Collapser, it just seems to do away with all of that, and it becomes more. It's kind of got like an alt metal, grungy kind of feel to it. You've got low end riffs. You've got a lot of like squealing, bending guitars. You've got it just in general. It's just got a bit more balls to it. And I think Collapse is a fucking wicked song. And it doesn't feel out of place either. Like a band like Caspian and an album like On Circles, where it's like very again, very, very post rock. It's creating this big mood, it's creating this big arsenal of sound. Having a big proper rock song like Collapser, it doesn't feel out of place. It doesn't feel like you should have like carry on Circles without Collapser and then just do an album of Collapser separately. It fits in so nicely, even when it does go straight into Ishmael or follows up with Ishmael, which is a bit more of a classically folk kind of song. It's somehow perfect and it fits so well, and I think that's not a detriment, the opposite of a detriment to Caspian and their songwriting. I think it's fantastic. The album ends on a song called Circles on Circles, which is just a fucking belter of a song. It's searing folk music. It is. I consider it the ballad, even though Ishmael is a bit more folksy. Circles on Circles, like I said, it's a bit more searing. It's got a bit more gravitas behind it, and that's why I think it's more like the ballad sort of song. It's also got vocals as well, which I think, because vocals are quite sporadic on this album. You've got some from Kyle Duffrey on Nostalgist, and I believe he's the lead singer of Pianos Become the Teeth. Other than that, it's Circles and Circles, and I think that's it. I think are they the only two? Fuck 'em. I think that shows how much I enjoyed this album. If I didn't realise I had no vocals in. I think that having the vocals in there makes it feel a bit more ballady. I described it to myself as it is the song that of Monsters of Men and of Mumford and Sons. That's the song they want to try and write. This like big indie folk, grandiose piece of music. If of Monsters of Men or if Mumford and Sons wrote Circles and Circles, it would blow the fuck up. It would be everywhere, and so many people would be going about how they're so diverse in their musical tastes. It is, oh my god, Circles and Circles is a fucking blinder of a song. It's very, very good, and as a whole, I enjoyed this way more than I thought I would. I knew it wasn't going to be an easy like, because it is post-rock, and it's not something I go for. I'm trying to force myself into it, and then often when you force yourself into liking a style of music, you end up hating it more. But the thing that's going to hurt me now is I'm going to go and find various post-rock artists expecting to hear Caspian version 2, and I'm just not, and it's going to take another long time to find another post-rock band that'll say, man, I like this as much as I like that Caspian record. Probably the amount of time for someone to listen to another post-rock album. Hey. It's good. It's great. It's fantastic. It is beautifully written. You can get so much out of it. You can have it on the background. You have it on as the focal point of your day. It is beautiful music. It's just fucking good. It's just fucking good. It is the 5th album from the Beverly, Massachusetts-based post-rock quintet Caspian. It is out now. Do give it a go. It's fucking wonderful. Moving on then we're going to Norway for, this is the album where I've only ever seen the name written down. So I don't know if it's ATENA or ATENA. It's spelled ATENA. I'm going to call it ATENA because that's what I've been having in my head until I start pressing record. ATENA is the band. The album is called Drowning Regret. I'm going to try again. Drowning Regret and Lungs Filled with Water. It is their 3rd album. It is a lot better than how I pronounce it, I promise. And like I said, they come from Norway. They are based in Oslo, and they do a very familiar style of electronic metalcore. It dabbles a bit with deathcore. It fucking whatever the extreme version of a dabble is. I was going to do it touches on metalcore and full-on gropes There Is a Hell by Bring Me the Horizon, but I've ruined my own fucking metaphor now. Little bits of deathcore, a whole lot of There Is a Hell, Era, Bring Me. It is, a very familiar kind of metalcore. It is the kind of thing that peaked around late 2000s, sort of stuff where a lot of the era of like electronic core is already pretty much dead. You had like the Nintendo core sort of stuff, and like the early Asking Alexandria, and that weird like almost I'll throw Crunkcore in there as well, like wave where it was like proper discotheque, fucking hell, how old am I? Like rave and drum and bass style electronics with post-hardcore. When they start to move away from that and start using synths for atmosphere and ambience, the same way architects still do now, and like how I said, Bring Me did on There Is a Hell, and even a little bit on Sempiternal, I guess. It falls in that margin of that like crossover to being a bit more expansive with electronics and their synths. I found the song Death Is All I Think About. I believe it was just through a Bandcamp dive one evening, and the song itself I really, really enjoyed. I thought I was very intrigued by the two vocalists. On cleans you've got Jacob Scully, and on harsh vocals, you've got Simon Kjexed. I really hope I'm getting both those names not. I'm probably not. But with Jacob, or Jakob, I call him Jacob because I'm English and I apparently hate all nationalities that aren't my own, including my own. With Jacob, his clean vocals are almost like borderline baritone at times. He's got quite a deep, natural kind of natural sounding voice. Whereas the way I've described Simon's harshes in my head is, you know, you get like in punk rock, you've got very like clean singers, and you've got the very like gnarly, harsh ones. Not harsh, like no, just gnarly ones. So you've got the more pop punk side of things, where you've got Billy Joe from Green Day. You've got Mark, Tom, and oh my god, why can't I remember his name? The fucking dude from Alkaline Trio. Why are you doing this to me, brain? I asked for so much. Well, that's probably why actually. I asked for a lot. Matt Skiba. Fucking hell, it's the second time this week I've done that. So yeah, there's kind of like clean vocals that Matt, Tom, Mark, Billy Joe, I don't know, Patrick from Fall Out Boy. They're like basically your clean sounding pop punk vocalists. If you were to use that for harsh vocalists, they would be, to use, because I used them earlier, Sam Carter from Architects. A very crisp, clear sounding scream, but it's still inevitably quite heavy. And then you got like your more gnarlier sounding punk with Sex Pistols and that sort of thing, where you've got proper like snarl, like phlegm at the back of your throat kind of clean vocal. That to me is kind of what Simon was doing on here. It is a much more, it's more of a gnarly kind of snarl and growl to his voice, as opposed to like a very crisp, very produced kind of scream. And it's not a knock. I genuinely found it quite interesting on that initial song, and that's what drew me in. It was quite different to other metalcore I heard, because it was just, you had, whereas you tend to have quite high pitched, squeaky, clean vocalists, this was a very, deep sounding cleans with very like, I don't really know how to describe it, but yeah, it's very like, I'll use the word again then, fucking snarly, kind of harshes. So yeah, very interested in that. And then the song itself, I really enjoy, because they were using synths to create more of an atmosphere and more, almost like Ice Nine Kills kind of ambience and theme behind the music. And yeah, really, really went for the song, and I got very, very excited for whatever was going to come from it, if it was an EP or an album, whatever. The follow-up single, Born Rotten, initially, I was not very keen on at all. For every bit that I praised the vocals for and what I enjoyed from the vocals from Death Is All I Think About, I kind of had the opposite with Born Rotten. It just felt, they had so many ideas that were trying to do all at once, and a lot of the like vocal execution just did not work. Like, I think that the clean chorus to Born Rotten, and it's just and that's all you hear. I can see what they were trying to go for, like add a little bit like a ghostly thing to it, but it just didn't work. It sounded more of a mumble, and in the context of the album, and listen to it a bit more whilst listening to the album as a whole, it has gone on me a little bit, but not to the point where I was like, yeah, this is a good song. It just didn't hit me the same way Death Is All I Think About did. And yeah, so my expectations for the album as a whole changed. So after Death Is All I Think About, I thought it was going to be a very, for lack of a better term, a very bop-filled metalcore album, on par with that third AA album that I always go on about. And there was a second album that I used to say about a lot, and it's completely escaped me. I'm not even trying to think about it because I'll be here all day. But just not, for me at least, not top tier album of the year sort of stuff, but something you can just put on and have just an easy time with it. That was after, that's what I think about. After Born Rotten, it changed quite dramatically. I tempered expectations, so now I thought it was going to be a very, very standard metalcore album, but every now and again a song's going to pop up and go like, fuck yeah, this is really, really good. And unfortunately, I kind of had neither. I ended up not getting on board with this album as much as I hoped it would. And I'm actually quite good because, yeah, I was quite hyped for this album for a while. There's a lot of Crossfaith vibes on it, and that's obviously not the kind of electronics that they use. The crossover between the electronics they use is very, very small. To me, it's more how they use them and how how the songwriting is. I can't remember what song it is. I think it might be She Wept As I Told Her, excuse me. And the way, I even think then it's Simon who sings and cleans, and it almost like the sort of attitude, borderline spoken word sort of thing, which is very similar to what is it Koji, I believe his name is, in but lead singer of Crossfaith. That's the kind of way he does it as well. And so, yeah, that was kind of like the little Crossfaith I was going through. There's a lot of like rapcore kind of stuff in there, which reminded me a lot of Stray from the Path. But it just became an album where they had so many things they wanted to do, and they had so many different ideas, and it became messy. There apparently is like this overarching story across the 3 albums that they've done. I think it stems from a teenage girl getting pregnant to having the baby, and on this album, the baby is like grown up to be a toddler and is trying to get hold of the mum. On track 5, which just looks like a phone number of some kind, it's just a succession of messages where the daughter's trying to get hold of the mum, and it's kind of odd. I think it's very, very ambitious to write a story across 3 albums. People have done it well, people have done it badly. Without listening to the other 2 albums, I'm not going to say if they've done it well or not, but I just trying to have something like that in there, which is fine if they want to do that, and then having so that song is then followed by a song called Domestic Abuse, which is very, very on the nose and very not subtle at all about what it's all about. And that was almost probably one of the best songs on this album. There's no particular reason why. It was just the ideas they're trying to get on, the ideas that I really, really liked in Death Is All I Think About. They just did it again in Domestic Abuse. I thought it was just very, very well done and very interesting modern electronic metalcore. Fuck now. But halfway through the song, they have a rapper come in, a rapper by the name of Damien, and he has a rap verse, and it just does not fit. It just does not fucking fit. The first part of the album, so the chorus, of the album, of the song, fucking hell. Sweaty shaking fingers and palms, can't unlock the phone, daydream when she lingers in his arms, not safe in his home, never. That's, again, it's not subtle, but it's pretty cleverly written. It's pretty goodly written lyrics. That's not even a sentence, but you know what I mean. And then you've got the rap part, which is, the opening to it is, you wanted to fight, well, you caught me in a bad mood. I'm a bad motherfucker, let nobody pass through. I fry motherfuckers like I'm slinging that fast food. That's not what I meant, well, nobody asked you. It's just completely different vibes. It's completely different energies that they're trying to put into this album, or to this song, fucking hell. And it just does not work. It just does not work. I'm upset. It's not because it doesn't work because rap shouldn't be in music, heavy music, and that's 100% not what I'm saying. I'm going to talk about an album in a bit, which is all the things of pop music in with metal music. It's just, and I've also compared this album to Crossfaith and Stray from the Path. There's nothing wrong with having rap in metal. There's nothing wrong with combining 2 genres of any kind together. Just ask Zealanada. The important thing is that it's done well, and it just doesn't work. And it, like I said, it's a massive shame. There's a lot of cool ideas, a lot of like interesting ideas that they're trying to go for. Just unfortunately, poorly executed in my opinion. I can see this being highly regarded in like modern metalcore kind of fandom, I guess, for like a better term. So if you went for mid career, so what's that? From Death to Destiny, and I'll even say the one before that, which I can't think of what it's called. Reckless and Relentless, I think it's called. Of Asking Alexandria, or of There Is a Hell, Sempiternal Time, Bring Me, Architects, that kind of thing. That kind of, it's electronic metalcore, but it's not synthy. It is atmospheric, thematic metalcore. Give it a go. It might be something you really get on board with. And yeah, at the end of the day, it was a tryout for me, and it just didn't work for me personally. So it's a shame, but never mind. It's been a stressful week, guys. I'm sorry. Drowning Regret and Lungs Filled with Water. That is what the album is called. It's album 3 from the Norwegian metalcore troupe ATENA. Or ATENA. It's one of them. Moving on then. We're going to come back to the United Kingdom. We're going to go to Scotland, to Kilwinning, Scotland, for the band VUKOVI and their second album, Fall Better. They are a pop rock duo comprised of Janine Shilstone as vocalist, and he's only listed as guitars. So I'm kind of curious who does the rest of the band's music. It might be him, in which case someone needs to update the Wikipedia, but as a whole, it's the duo Janine Shilstone and Hamish Riley. And I cannot think of the last album I listened to, and I listened to it and I thought, this is going to be so polarizing. It's not going to be an album where you're either going to it was alright, it was a little bit of, it was you know it's solid 6 out of 10 album. It is either going to completely infuriate you and you're going to hate it, or it's going to be one of the albums of the year and you're going to adore it, because VUKOVI do the cardinal sin of heavy music, and that is they put it with pop. And not just like pop influences. This is straight up like, you could use some, I've talked about it a bit more, but I've got notes on how you can use lyrics as a girl band. You've got hooks that you can use for like modern pop. This is not metal bands using pop influences or thinking that's a cool idea, or getting a pop artist in for a feature, or what ATENA did and get a very pop accepted genre like rap and then put that into one of their songs. This is pop music with the guitars. If you liked anything that Linkin Park ever did, or you saw why so many people went on board with that, you're going to get every single one of those feelings with this album. I don't want to go all the way and say that they are like a modern Linkin Park, because I'm sure I'm missing some super obvious name that's already filling that void, but they ain't fucking far off. The lead single, well, the first single I saw, because I don't think it was lead single, I think it was like the 4th song released from the album, something bizarre like that. Violent Minds. If you took the guitars out of that song, you would have an electro pop song, which should be touring with Charli XCX. The album has, massive pop beats. It has so much fucking autotune, which I just was not expecting in this year, let alone anything else, let alone the kind of music I listen to. You've got big pop beats, you've got autotune, you've got a lot of pop lyrics and a lot of pop references. Violent Minds, again, for example, uses the term daddy a lot. The chorus to Behave is one of the best pop hooks not used in a girl group right now. Aura, I think, has a lyric. I can't remember if it's just a verse or it might be pre-chorus, I think. that could easily be used in a nightclub, and you just see limbs everywhere. The seesaw inside you is not going to hold. Head up, people, let your mass at the floor. Lock up your fears, you've only got the key. Only you've got the key, excuse me. Do it right, you'll get it right. The fucking limbs, if that dropped in a nightclub, would be insane. And as a whole, I don't know if I can say this without just sounding like a very generic white guy. But the same kind of like, if you listen to any pop act, like actual pop act, like Little Mix or... I haven't listened to the radio in about 5 years. We'll use Charli XCX again because I used her a minute ago. You take any, like the standardized kind of lyrics for like Little Mix or Charli XCX, they've always got like an air of sexuality behind it. When I say this is very, very pop centric, it's even to the point where a lot of the lyrics are quite sexual and even quite sexy. I don't know if that just makes me a very stereotypical white guy. Probably does, or straight white boy, and you know, it's an observation that I found, and that's that. It's I cannot get past how much reminds me of what I would, the style of music I would listen to when I was growing up, and the only channel we had was the hits. Rip. And I really, really fucking like this. I did not expect to. I was not expecting to. It's an album full of fun. 100% that. I don't feel that this is going to be top echelon of my end of year list. I'm going to be pretty confident to say that because it does peter off in the second half. But guaranteed this is going to be a song, an album. There's going to be a lot of songs on there that I just go back to just for ease, just to have on the background, have a little bit of a bop, have a little shake of my head. It's just wonderful fun. Violent Minds continues to be an absolute brilliant song. Claudia is incredible. Behave is incredible. The album up until about Verify Your Worth is fantastic. Verify Your Worth is like a holding place, basically. I can't think of the fucking word. Placeholder song, we'll call it that. And it's just the interaction with the narrative, which I'll get into in a second. And then after that, it doesn't quite hit as well. I think it was White Lies is... Oh, Where Are You might have been, actually. One of those two. I think that says a lot, actually. One of those two is the shining light of the second half of the album. The fact I can't remember which one it was says a lot about the first half of the album. The first half of the album is just banger after banger. It's really fucking good. Like I said, Verify Your Worth shows off this like pseudo narrative that the album's got. You hear it in the intro, which is 17359. That is the number the listener is allocated, I guess. And it's got a thing in there which is the following album has harsh lyrics, flashing lights, and massive fucking riffs, which I kind of like that. I think it's dumb. It's super dumb, but it's really fun. People are praising the hell for doing things like that. I can't see why a band like VUKOVI can't do it as well. I think it's super cheap pop, but it's a cheap pop. It's still a pop. But yeah, they got this like pseudo narrative that there's two happening. You are either in a simulation, and this album is the world you live in, and you've also got this like weird anime girl that's either chasing you or chasing someone else, and you see them chasing someone else, and then they gotta kill you. A lot of it happens in Run Hide, which is the last song. It's a bit weird for me. It's just a little bit odd. But outside of that, I think this album's pretty fun. It's really, really good. Like I said, it's easy to listen to. It's not. I just don't know. It's just fun. It's just all the pop beats that you get and what makes pop so infectious to a lot of people. You just have that. Only this time, you just got this like massive thundering riff following it, and that's a lot of why I compare it to Linkin Park. The way they would have very pop-centric ideas in their songwriting, and then use it in. I'm just gonna get rid of that. And then use it in with new metal riffs. That's kind of the vibe I get from this album. Yeah, I'm totally looking forward to what comes next for VUKOVI, and I can totally see it being a gateway album to bigger and heavier things. And I've realised that sounds like a fucking big ass dig at VUKOVI. If you listen to VUKOVI, you realise music gets bitter. It's like, no, VUKOVI was a lot of fun, and I've said that so much now I'm going to stop, but yeah, it's a bit daft, it's a bit silly, but my god, you'll have a good time listening to it. It is the second album from VUKOVI. It is called Fall Better. It is beautifully British, because Scotland can't escape us. Yeah, give it a go. It's strangely enough, I think it might be a bit fun. Moving on then to the penultimate review for this week then. We are remaining in the UK. This time we're going to the United Kingdom of England for Salt Ashes, and technically her debut EP, Counting Crosses. I say technically because she's still got an album and many, many singles behind her. And who is she? Who is her? She is Vega Sanchez. This is the pseudonym that she operates by musically. She hails from Brighton, and she operates with like a dark synth pop style of music. And this was another one that I found on Bandcamp. I feel like I found this while I was trying to find like emo rap or goth rap or something like that. It's definitely not that. If you're looking for an alternative to like WIKOVI, Springs Eternal, or Josh A, this isn't for you. But if you like synth pop that's like a bit gothy and almost a bit gory, stick around. This is going to be a lot of fun. The opening lyric to the title track, I should say, is "You fuck me like I love you. You're lucky I'm still here," and that is just dark shit. And I was like, man, I really want to stick around for this. This is gonna be good, because it's quite spiteful and it's quite snide, and it's pretty mean, and I like those sort of things in my music. So yeah, definitely stick around for that. And like I said, it is synth pop. It's a very dark, brooding take on synth pop, complete with some very leering, piercing, searing vocals from your gal Vega Sanchez. And the mix of the EP very much puts the focus on her vocals and how her pronunciation, how she hits notes and this sort of thing. I found it oddly abrasive at times. Not like a death metal grindcore, it's just up in your grill kind of thing. Particularly on headphones, like the trap drum beats you have, combined with electronics that you get on the album, which on the EP, which are times very glitchy, very pulsating, almost to the point where sometimes it's like noise electronica. All that together, it can often be quite intense, where you're just like, man, it's only... It's about, I think it says like just over 10 minutes long, or 11 minutes long, and there are times where you're like, you just need a break, because it just rips too hard, man. It just rips too hard. Yeah, it's quite intense at times with all the electronica and all the various beats going on. The title track, like I said, Counting Crosses, is a lot of fun. My personal favourite for the EP is Rah Rah. It's weird how it's almost like a cheerleader style word or noise, Rah Rah. And the way she uses it in the lyrics itself and in the chorus, I want to play for Honor Rah Rah. Saying that out loud doesn't sound like it should work, but the way she uses it together, and I can't think what the word is when you just use wording to create music. Not a cappella. There is a certain word that I'm thinking of, I can't think what it is. But whatever that word is, and whatever that technique is, she does it very well on the song Rah Rah. Like I said, personal favourite. I've got written down that it has a digital post-apocalyptic feel to it, on the lines of like Altered Carbon on Netflix. However, the way the world's going, it's gonna be pretty appropriate very soon. So, yeah, if you like very dark, very gothy kind of synth pop, imagine I keep using them as an example today. Charli XCX mixed with, we'll say, VUKOVI Springs Eternal, more so than Josh A. Gives us a go. She's a very, very powerful vocalist, and one that hurts your head after a while in a very good way. I realise that sounds like a dick move, but you know. It's called Counting Crosses. It is by Salt Ashes, the pseudonym of Vega Sanchez. I am very intrigued to find out what comes next, because her first album, I quickly glanced through, it's a self-titled one, came out in 2016. It's still in the world of synth pop, and you do get the occasional glimpses of what she's doing now, but overall it does feel like a much more upbeat kind of affair in the debut, whereas if she continues on this line, the sophomore is going to be a much darker, much broodier kind of thing, which I think will appeal to the alternative world a lot more. So yeah, maybe one to check out for the future. And the final album of the week. The album of the week, some may say. I had to breathe in as I said that first one. I don't sound bored. I just talk too much and I don't breathe. Hailing from Germany, this is the melodic hardcore band Giver and their sophomore album, Sculpture of Violence. As I say, melodic hardcore, a bleaker, darker entry into the world of melodic hardcore. It adds discordant melodies and just disparaging lyrics to make the album sound like it's absolutely drenched in despair and agony and just doom, basically. There were times where I was thinking, man, should this be considered a black and hardcore album? And musically, it should not. It's not. Musically, it's got nothing in common with black metal or anything like that. But the mood it has, like the overarching theme that it has, it's very. It's hard to say doom and gloom without using like various stereotypical things that you use for like doom-based hardcore, like in the sludge world, or if you don't want to use black metal in it. But yeah, it's just a very cryptic, darkened kind of hardcore, and that's kind of what I can say for it without using any more words that I know. It helps as well, so you've got, the various guitar melodies and the various riffs that give it that very darkened edge to it. The lyrics help a lot in creating that world of like despair-based hardcore, which we're going to call it apparently. Imitation Dreams feels like it's targeting toxic masculinity, and this is the thing, actually, I should have said this beforehand. There's no genius entry for Giver. The lyrics just sort of like stand isolated, or at least I haven't found the Genius album rundown for Sculpture of Violence yet, so everything's open to interpretation. This is just how I perceive these lyrics, so a little caveat in there. But Imitation Dreams kind of feels like it targets toxic masculinity. You've got the lyrics, can you remember the day that time stowed away, that first time they told you to dry your fucking tears? Can you recall what age you were? What was the time of year? Too young to understand when someone told you to be a man. That is fucking brilliant lyric writing. It's so good. And it feels like it's just pent-up rage built over years and years and years and years. And then the beautiful thing about music is that you can just release it. And it's artistic venting that people can get on board by. Evilis initially struck me as a breakup song. I don't want to read off any lyrics purely because with how the rest of the album is written, all the other lyrics that I've looked at, I feel like, and I could be completely wrong, I could be on the ball and say this is a breakup song one of the band members had. It initially struck me as a breakup song, but again, the way the rest of the album is written and the intensity that's in it and just like the aggro that's in it, I feel like it's too simple to say it's a breakup song. It's a very, very well written song, and one of my personal better songs on the album. And yeah, I just feel like it's too simple to say breakup song. And again, if I'm wrong, I'm wrong. That's, again, this is open to interpretation. But yeah, another great song, another brilliantly written song. Longing for Death. Excuse me, I'm just slowly dying. Not the... Oh, I can't say that anymore, can I? I'm not the actual dying. Longing for Death. This is the one where I'm completely going off, not on my own, for what I interpret it and what I think the song's about. The fact the song references two souls, they're torn between having routine, being one of many, and wanting to be like everyone, but also want to be like everyone else, and also being like kind of animalistic in their thought process. It strikes me as a song that's written as like a first-person perspective, PTSD. And the lyric I've got from it is, a fine line inside me, parting lust and bourgeoisie, torn between a pleasured me and a modern slavery. Without getting too personal, my stepdad still technically is a military man. He came out the forces for a while, and to watch him try and readjust to civilian life, he went for jobs where it meant he could be in a uniform. He went for a job where he could be one of a many, like a soldier, and he found it incredibly difficult coming back into the civilian world. And that's kind of what I'm getting here, because you've got like being one of the many, having that routine, but also want to be like everyone else and just be a bit freer in what they do, a bit freer as a person. And he loves the military. He loved and continues to love the military, and that's why it is that thing between torn between a pleasured me and a modern slavery. Because if, like, under a cynic's eye, you can see military as being a very modern form of slavery, because you are doing what you're told and you have to do what it says often without a personal input. But it's what a lot of people in the military enjoy, at least the ones that I've spoken to. So that was like my take on it, and it's, no matter what it is, it's more very beautiful, not beautiful, that's the wrong word, very brilliantly written lyrics with just like the darkest intents behind them. And often, like, go in the world of hardcore, go in the world of emo, that's often the best kind of lyrics to have. What I want to talk about, though, after all the lyrics, is Sculpture of Violence might actually have, well, definitely an early contender for Song of the fucking Year. Every age has its dragons, parentheses, like an empire. My fucking god, that song fucking rips. There's everything about that song is brilliant. The like slow, like big tom bass drumming, as I think the lead singer is called Robert. They're quite cryptic in all their identities and what they have on and what they do on the album. But like the big drums followed by like just backing up the frontman as like a low crawling kind of lyric happens, and then you got bits of blast beats in there, a very like walking pace snare and floor tom, snare and bass drum kind of deal, and then you got the chorus, and the chorus sounds fucking huge. It's just boom like an empire, boom like, oh, that in a live setting, when we have live settings again, is going to fucking melt what's left of the planet. It is insanely good, and I didn't want to run the same problem, or didn't want the same problem as when I listened to the Basement record a few years ago, where it was on the album Beside Myself, and the song Disconnect was like track 1 or track 2, and I just kept listening to that over and over again, and I fell in love with the song Disconnect. So much so that whenever I tried to listen to the rest of the album, I just wanted to keep going back, and I didn't want the rest of the album. I just wanted Disconnect, and I ended up getting a pretty shit review from me because I just couldn't get past Disconnect. Thankfully, on here, the rest of the album is very, very good still, but Every Age Has Its Dragons is a fucking blinder of a song. It is hardcore, it is heavy metal, it is dramatic as tits. Oh, it's fucking great. I love that song so much, and this album as a whole, very, very good. Like I said, it's a very dark, bleak take on melodic hardcore, but my god, is it a good one. It is the second album from Give. It's called Sculpture of Violence. I believe it's Holy Raw, which explains why it's so great, because they do everything great, because it's so fucking great. Look at me, I'm Holy Raw. I can do anything brilliantly. I don't know why I'm mad. That does it for this week. Next week, hopefully, or next time you see me, I should hopefully have the biggest album on the planet in Code Orange. I'm kind of tempted not to do it, purely because there's nothing that I could say that people haven't already heard about that album, so let me know. I'm kind of 6 2/3 at the moment about that one, but there will definitely be heavy punk from Haggard Cat, some good old-fashioned death metal from Phalanx, hope I pronounced that right, and some blackened power violence hardcore from Leached. So it's going to be a very, very aggro-heavy week next week, and subsequently the current listening week is going to be damn heavy. As ever, if you have any thoughts on this week's, or my takes on this week's album, so of course you've had Caspian, ATENA, VUKOVI, Salt Ashes, and Giver, do feel free to get in touch. Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, at Desolation Pod. Now more than ever, this extends just beyond music as well. With what's happening with coronavirus, there's a lot of things getting cancelled right now, or getting postponed, or getting delayed, or whatever. You've got tours being cancelled. You've got wrestling shows being shut down. There's one in the States, I think it was WrestleCon actually. They got shut down, or they had to cancel everything because they just couldn't get people across, and obviously no mass collection of people. And the hotel they were booking has refused to let them go, and they're demanding over $100,000 in damages and insurance. It's a shitty time right now for any interest that you might have. The best you can do without shows, without going after these places, is, without obviously financially crippling yourselves, just buy a bit of merch. If they have a Patreon, sign up to that for a while. If they have a coffee, buy a drink. For once, bits like that, so your Patreons and coffee, they're good for like independent artists. For the more bigger interests like music, like pro wrestling, like theatre, like anything like that, buy some merch, donate to them in some way, without hurting yourself and what's going to be a massive ball ache of a time. Look after each other, look after yourselves, and look after interests, because I think we're all going to need a bit of a pat on the back at the end of this. And if you know anyone involved with the NHS, just buy them a drink. Or just say, you're doing a good job, bro. You're doing a great job. And yeah, slightly different way to end this week, but then it's been a bit of a weird week. Enjoy. I've got an eyelash in my eye, which only YouTube people can see now. Oh fuck, I've made that worse. I don't have a personalized URL for YouTube yet, so just go to any of my social medias. That hasn't got it at all. And then find it through there. And that's got it. I hope to see anything soon. Yeah, I'll see y'all guys next week. But that's it. I've run out of things to say. Bye.